The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I am your host, Rebecca Miller, and my co-host is Otto Lohse, along with radio show producer extraordinaire Kristina and the director of 88.1 FM and WCWP.org, Dan Cox. Today is a very, very special show. We are celebrating 10 years of Project Independence and You on the air. So let's get started with our very special first guest, Town Supervisor Judi Bosworth. Supervisor, welcome to Project Independence and You, and how wonderful to have you on this anniversary show.
Well, good morning. I am so delighted to be able to be here to really share a very special moment. 10 years of Project Independence radio show is extraordinary. And I know, Kristina, 10 years ago, they talked to you about doing a radio show, and look what it has evolved into. It's an amazing source of information for our seniors. It's wonderful. A special thank you, of course, to Kristina, Rebecca, my host of hosts, Otto, and of course, along with Dan Cox and all the great people at LIU who make this possible. The only sad thing for me is that John Ryan isn't able to be with us today, and I'm sure he's listening. Kristina, before you said, we'll do another one, when John.
That's right. It gives me another reason to celebrate, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And no one does celebrating better than Project Independence radio show. I can attest to that.
So it's unbelievable. So if you really think about it, I was talking to Kristina. So it's 10 years, 52 weeks in a year. And really, every Friday, if we're not doing it live, we will air something in advance for the most part. Our repeat shows are pretty rare. So we're talking like 500, what did we say, like 480 to 500 shows?
Yeah, it was a lot of shows.
all scheduled by Kristina. And all the guests are just so amazing, one after another, and the information, right, Otto? We're always just so amazing.
Well, what's interesting is Kristina, based on this, was probably only about 15 years old when she did all that.
Oh, that's right, Otto. That's why we keep you around, Otto.
No, really, you were as green as grass. Let's face facts.
I was as green as grass. That's right.
Yeah, and you learned quickly, and you did a great job.
That's right. Evelyn came to me, it was the first show was September 23rd. So it was technically yesterday. But I remember Evelyn Roth coming to me saying, we're doing a radio show and you're going to produce it. And I said, all right, we'll figure this out. But it's really exciting. Everyone knows this is my favorite little baby. And to reflect when I was going through all the schedules, because I keep a whole, spreadsheet, it's such a mix of different guests. And I think it's great information. And listen, especially during this pandemic, being on North Hempstead TV, I think really opened to the audience. And we had amazing guests on, and we got people through a very tough time. So I'm happy. I'm very proud.
But
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. But I think one of the things that, because of Zoom and the whole COVID thing, I think the show got better, to be honest with you.
I agree.
The other part of it is that it gave TV as an outlet, which we didn't have before. And I think that I've even had people come up to me and say, I saw you on television.
That's right. I've been signing autographs all over North Hempstead.
Well, I didn't think anybody watched that channel, to be honest.
Yeah.
I would beg to differ.
That's right. Tell
but clearly people do. Well, there are people who do watch it. Actually, a lot of people, and I'm surprised. I'm not really surprised, but I am surprised. What can I say?
No, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Well, it's beyond that. It just shows the ability of the whole Project Independent staff and certainly the radio show to stay current, to be flexible, to understand that you can't just do the same thing week after week, that you have to be responding to whatever the new challenges are. And certainly by doing this radio program via Zoom, having it transmitted on television as well, shows that ability to, as they say, go with the flow. We assume everybody has computer technology and the ability to log on, and we know that's not the case. So the fact that whether it's the radio show or the physical fitness classes or programming, it's not only online, but it is on TV. So it opens it up to really everybody in the town.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that, Supervisor, just because we'd love for everybody in the town, seniors, of course, to become as technology savvy as possible, but some just aren't interested, and they may not even have the ability to become, buy laptops and smartphones and invest in plans for minutes, or that whole thing can be a little overwhelming. So the television, North Hempstead television, I don't think we realized how many people it reached until the pandemic, because we started getting, calls from 311 about seniors who not only, don't have computers, but never took a fitness class before. And they would say, I just took my first fitness class and I didn't even know I could do it seated. So it was really wonderful. And then people will say to me even, oh, I saw you on the radio. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. It's like,
an oxymoron.
Right. So it really is North Hempstead Television, the radio show. It's still very, very important to reach, our seniors and, our all of our town residents.
Well, that's really what it is you reach all the residents, because people who aren't seniors, and that's what I found during the pandemic, were actually seeing it. So, the senior might be watching it with their daughter or their grandchild, that way, whatever the case is. So it really opened it up. And I think that's what's so special about North Hempstead TV is you're able to kind of connect to all different people. I said, we're beyond seniors now. It's more of a community kind of service project that we're doing over here.
Well,
So
Kristina,
maybe Project Independence, but it has a reach to so many people beyond those
Absolutely.
who are seniors. And so that's, kudos to all of you.
Well, we talked about Kristina, naturally, when we say we. Somebody is putting together a list of non-technical tips for people who can't call Uber, or they can't call Grubhub, or whoever. And I think that's a good thing. Here's how you, as a non-technical person, can function within this world.
Right. That's great. How to continue to survive in a technical world as a non-technical person, because everything's changing. Even your credit card today has a little thingy on it, and it's if you don't have that on your credit card, it's going to be hard to pay for things. Even the swipes are almost obsolete. It's just every few years things keep changing, and it's like, how do you help people who are just not in that realm? So that's a great idea to continue with the things that are non-technology based. But Supervisor Bosworth, so I know that you've been on the show so many times, and I think you were on actually before you were at the town. You live in the town.
That's correct. She was many times.
You have worn several hats and when coming on the show, but it's just so nice to have you on for this hour. And I know that you're a public figure, so you're probably used to being interviewed on the radio. I don't know if you ever get used to like television interviews or being on the radio.
Here's the thing, when I do the Project Independence radio show, I never feel like I'm being interviewed. I feel like I'm here with my family and we're just having a great discussion about whatever topic comes up.
Yeah, right. I know. I remember the first time I came on as just, a guest to talk about Project Independence, I was so nervous. I was very, very nervous. And then whoever was, I can't remember who was a co-host, but they just said, "Oh, this isn't an interview. This is, we just talk. This is talk radio." And then from that second on, it get almost, I don't want to say addicting, that's a strong word, but like you really so look forward to doing the radio show and
we do
hearing
have to
all the
have
great things.
you on, Judy, when you're unemployed.
Well, how do you with that hat on?
Well, I mean, that'll be you talked about change and adjustment and whatever.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to just chat about what that's all about. I call it rewirement as opposed to retirement. You're not the type, I don't think, that's just going to sit in the house all day and do nothing. So it'd be interesting to chat about how does this post treadmill that you've been on, how did that work out? And I think that'd be a great little session to have, actually.
So, you bring up such an interesting point so for those who are listening who don't know, I'm not running for re-election. So as of December 31st is my last day in office as a town supervisor. And it was a difficult decision to make. I have to tell you, it was, even at this point, it's somewhat bittersweet, but it was the right decision. And I knew it was time. We've done so much here in the town, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished, but it's time. It was the right time. And, my philosophy always is better to leave 2 years too early than leave 2 years too late. So I believe I'm leaving 2 years too early, and I hope others, would agree with that. And people are saying to me, "So what are you doing after?" And it's not a very exciting answer because I don't know. I just know, I'm concentrating on, making sure that we're doing all the things that we need to be doing, that we want to be doing, that just continues to move the town forward. And it's, I feel like, Scarlett O'Hara, I'll think about that tomorrow. But maybe when that tomorrow comes, you'll have me back and we can see, how that actually, turned out.
That's right. And Judy, I just checked. Supervisor has been on 18 times on our show. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember the first time I was on. It was like a 15-minute segment, and it seemed so long. And now, I'm scheduled today to be on for an hour, and I know it's going to happen by the end of the hour. I'm going to say, "Are you kidding? It's over."
I don't think it's unusual of how you answered the question as to what are you going to do. I'm semi-retired now, 18 years, and I knew I wanted to do something. I had no idea what, but I had defined things like I wanted to get involved with some kind of a charity. Had no idea what, and along came this meeting with Project Independence in the beginning. And I thought that serves a good purpose. I'm going to get involved with that.
Well, actually, we have to take a quick break. We will continue with Supervisor Judi Bosworth celebrating Project Independence in You 10-year anniversary on 88.1 and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. Those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, and my co-host is Otto Lohse and Kristina Liu, who is the radio show producer. And of course, we are talking with Supervisor Judi Bosworth as we ring in year number 10 of Project Independence in You. And we were doing a little reminiscing about how many times you've been on the show. It sounds like SNL, Saturday Night Live. They always talk about
That's right.
How many times have you been on the show,
Me and Steve Martin.
What's that? It's the comparison. We do like to compare ourselves to Saturday Night Live sometimes, not all the time. We do have serious matters, on at hand. But, so many things that, we think about when we look back over the 10 years and the things that, were, I don't want to say important 10 years ago, but how a lot of that has changed, even coming through some of these major events. I always remember, Judi, when you first came in, it was like snowstorm after snowstorm after. It was the craziest winter we had in so many years. So
we had
when you think about that.
Yeah,
right?
We had 17 snowstorms that year. It got to the point where it wasn't just that we were having a major snowstorm every week. It morphed into we were having 2 major snowstorms every week. And so how ironic that, I came in to snowstorms and blizzards and I'm going out with the pandemic. So I don't know, there's like some kind of life cycle there. And I'm not making light of the pandemic. It's really
of course not
been so terribly challenging. And what I'm proud of is the way that our town, that all of you at Project Independence have dealt with the challenges of the pandemic. And just as we think we see the light at the end of the tunnel, there's another variant. I mean, now we're dealing with the Delta variant that's so very contagious. So we have to keep shifting what we're doing. I remember, we were so excited this summer that we were able to resume Fun Day Mondays. Unfortunately, because of weather, rain and heat, out of the 4 that were scheduled, we only had 2. So that was disappointing. But at the beginning of the summer, I remember going to Fun Day Monday, and at that point there were, I think the positivity rate in North Hempstead was below 1%. And so we were there and no one was wearing masks. We were outdoors and we were all perfectly comfortable. When I was anticipating going to the last one in August, that unfortunately was canceled, I was going to be there with a mask on. So it's a constantly evolving situation, and we're trying as best as we can to do that. I can't stress enough about how important it is for everyone to be vaccinated. The only way we're going to get through this is by getting vaccinated, by making sure that we still maintain social distance. If we're inside, we need to be masked. We had gone away from that, but we're back there again. I mean, the government now has okayed those 65 and older who took the Pfizer shot to get a booster. And I think they're anticipating that, Moderna and Johnson & Johnson will be, coming down the pike pretty soon. Mm-hmm. And we have to take that seriously too, because at a certain point, especially for people who are older, that certainly doesn't include some of us, but Otto, it includes the others of us.
It includes me.
Yeah, me too. So we have to, make sure that we listen to what the science is telling us and that we follow it. And it protects not only ourselves, but it protects all our loved ones and right. The people that we're, coming in contact with. So
I'm sorry, but there are so many horror stories that I have heard, and I'm not going to go into detail about any of them, but where people don't get the shot and then they end up in the hospital. In one case, a nephew of Funny, my wife, had both sets of parents, step parents, whatever, in the hospital, 4 people, Tennessee and Florida. None of them had the shot. 2 of the 4 didn't make it. And the other 2 have some problems. So, and they didn't get the shot. And, I know all about why people don't want to do it in a lot of cases, and I respect that. But there's so much evidence that shows that the people who have the problems nowadays, particularly like 90% or whatever the number, are people who weren't vaccinated. So, yeah, you have a right to choose, no question about it. But with that right goes the fact that you should understand you're taking a big gamble. The odds are against you if you don't get the shot. And,
So I
No,
mean,
it's true. And the other thing is that unfortunately what we're seeing now also is what the, calling breakthrough cases. So that even if you have been vaccinated, there are people who are coming down with COVID. Now they're not getting it as seriously. This is not people saying, oh, then why should I get the vaccine? Well, you should get the vaccine because in all likelihood, you're not going to wind up needing oxygen. You're not going to wind up in the hospital and you're not going to die. All good motivating factors to make sure that you're vaccinated. But that even if you are vaccinated, to still follow the COVID suggested protocols, wearing a mask, washing your hands, social distancing, all those things, unfortunately, are really coming right back. I thought we were past that, but we're not.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is just good under like any circumstance, being careful, being mindful, washing hands, there's the flu, there's so many things around that, it's really just taking care of yourself and protecting your loved ones. So, I do think Supervisor Town did an excellent job. And we have learned so much. I mean, even what we were talking about a little before, how we reached people on North Hempstead television. And that came up because of, staying indoors and trying to provide all of our programs, Project Independence, and a lot of the town programs as well, and just keep it going. So, we did get some things that, we learned a lot and how to stay connected. I mean, we're going to continue, with all the programs on North Hempstead television indefinitely, right? I mean, if they're reaching people, especially isolated people, then it's a really good thing. So we did really learn a lot from it. And, hopefully with all the precautions and all the information the town, the county, everybody provides, we'll move on and things, things will get back to normal if it's a new normal, but some kind of normal. So, I mean, I'm grateful to you and the team of North Hempstead for all they've done, we've done for our community. So, so we were kind of talking a little bit about the weather when you came in. And it was funny because, you were talking about snow, what I was going to say too, because I remember it was like almost comical because every meeting, you were on Channel 12 constantly. I'm like, oh, another, when we saw you, unfortunately, that first, winter, we knew it was going to snow. So, now it's the rain. So
I was going to say, talk about boots on the ground. I mean, I thought I was just in snow boots for that whole first
Judi, maybe
time,
that's what you can do in retirement. You could do like a whole weather gear kind of fashion.
There you go. To get the troops in line to, shovel highways, this. It was so unbelievable. I mean, we were constantly canceling programs and getting on the phone. And, it was at a point where we're like, look, call 311. It's going to snow. See if your program's still up, because it was so, it was so crazy. And now we've got all this rain. So I don't know, maybe it's like, there's some kind of weather event related to milestones in your life.
Well, I will tell you, and I'm sharing this with you.
No one's listening. Go ahead.
A typical Bosworth vacation absolutely is rain.
Oh,
people will call us to say, where are you going and when will you be there? So that they know that's not the place to go. So I have to say, I do take full credit for this. But I'm glad that you brought up the rain because, we are suffering from, I'm getting tired of hearing the word unprecedented because we are experiencing so many unprecedented events. And I think about, this latest tropical storm Ida, that we did get unprecedented flooding. With Superstorm Sandy, it wasn't really that much a rain event in North Hempstead. It was more a wind event, so that trees were just toppling down all over the place. And I wasn't supervisor then, but I was a Nassau County legislator, and we were just watching in just horror as one, tree came down after another, pulling down power lines. And so we lost power and it stayed out for weeks and weeks. Now we're dealing with something else, and that was the flooding from Tropical Storm Ida. And there was so much damage. You saw pictures of people having basements with, feet of water in it. And the areas really in North Hempstead that were most affected were New Hyde Park, Great Neck, Port Washington. And not to say that other areas, Manhasset was affected, and not to say other areas weren't, but these were the areas that were really just devastated. You saw pictures at train stations of water just cascading over walls, flooding the tracks. And we heard from people who mudslides. And so one thing that I'm very proud of is that the town board and I did send a letter to FEMA earlier this month advocating that they add Nassau County, and then of course that would include North Hempstead, to their federal disaster declaration, because originally we were not part of that federal disaster declaration. So that in fact happened. And so one of the positive things that came out of this is although people found that their insurance was not covering these flood damages, and again, it goes back to, I'm not putting down insurance companies, but it just seemed that everyone's insured except for when something happens and you're not insured for the one thing,
Right.
that you need it
True.
for,
Yeah.
right? So what FEMA has done, and this is great, is they opened a headquarters actually at Michael J. Pulley Park in New Hyde Park to make the process of applying for FEMA assistance for residents. This isn't now just government. You always hear about governments getting FEMA assistance. This is FEMA assistance for you, for me, for your neighbor, for anybody who has sustained damage because of the flooding. So if you are in need of I am reading it because I want to make sure I get it. I see Dan's getting giving us a little sign, so maybe I can continue after.
Yeah, after break, we'll have you read that statement. We do have to take a quick break. We'll continue with Supervisor Judi Bosworth celebrating Project Independence in You 10-year anniversary on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I am your host for today, Rebecca Miller. And of course, our co-host is Otto Lohse. And also joining us today is our radio show producer, Kristina Liu. We're all happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary with our town supervisor, Judi Bosworth. And Judi, before the break, you were about to read some information on FEMA and how incredible that is that our residents can access FEMA, over at Tully Park. So that information is, certainly relevant.
Yeah, and absolutely. So the headquarters are going to be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, every day.
Wow.
However, there is a process. So if you want to apply for FEMA assistance, first you have to call the FEMA call center, and I'm going to give you the number, and I know that you'll also let people know. So it's 1-800-621-3362.
Okay.
And the reason it's important to call there is when you call, you get a case number. And you'll be asked to give some general information, like a list of the damages and losses that you incurred, insurance information, a current phone number, an address, social security number. Those who have been displaced, including uninsured families, would be eligible for funding for housing assistance, legal services, unemployment assistance, childcare, and crisis counseling. So once you've spoken to the call center and they've given you the case number, you then go to Michael J. Tully Park, and that's at 1801 Evergreen Avenue in New Hyde Park. You need to bring a form of identification, the case number that you were given, and any additional documents that FEMA may have asked you to bring with you. And again, it's open 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you want additional information, you can go online at www.disasterassistance.gov. Or again, you can call that FEMA call center at 1-800-621-3362. And so it's great. It's not great that it happened, but it is really good to see that we're doing everything that can be done, and that the government is doing what they can do to make sure that assistance is available to those who need it.
Yeah,
I walked in
great.
Tully, and I actually walked there yesterday, and they have several very large banners, and there were quite a few cars in the parking lot. Hard to say if it was for FEMA or just for the pool that's there. One of the things that we chatted offline a little bit, I heard a couple of people talking about the dog park, which I see when I go there, and I don't have a dog, but it's always a interesting dynamic to watch the dogs, and they're almost like people when they're in in this park. Some dogs are a little less pushy than others, and it's very interesting. But I was just wondering, it looked like everything was hunky-dory as far as the park is concerned, except it wasn't open. So
I'm so glad you brought that up, Otto. The park right now is closed. And believe me, no one wants to see it open more than I or the people in North Hempstead. But there was a sinkhole. We had to close it because we were afraid of safety, not only for the residents, but also for the dogs. We've had, engineering companies coming looking at it. They've identified what they need to do. The work is beginning. It's being done by Land Tech. And the hope is that the park will be reopened at the very beginning of October. The sinkhole is a one park, but of course they're adjacent to each other. And the great concern is that another one could emerge. So this is safety. And I know, I'm getting emails from people who are, really upset. How could you be closing it? No one wants it to be closed. It's closed because of safety reasons. If we didn't close it and there was a mishap, number one, it would be terrible for the person who got hurt. And of course, it would be a tremendous liability, for the town. So this is closed. The only reason is to protect the safety of the residents and their pets. And this is being worked on. I am in contact with our acting parks commissioner, Kelly Gillen, and I get daily updates about, okay, this happened. They're working feverishly to make sure that the park is reopened.
Thank you.
Great. You've got, it's great that, October is right around. It's crazy that we're already coming into October, which is, it's a month filled with programming too for Project Independence. We have a lot of things coming up, and we've adapted them for, of course, the safety of our residents, whether it's mask wearing or moving a program outdoors or reducing the number of people that really should be at an event, making sure we provide as much information as possible. But Project Independence, we are hosting a lot of programs. So, people should always call 311 and get used to also, Supervisor, one of the things that we've noticed a lot with our seniors, especially with our transportation program, is if they need to call 311 from their cell phone, they have to dial 869-6311. Because if they call 311, they could get the city 311, which happens a lot. So we're kind of, really encouraging people to program 311-869-6311 into their cell phone. Certainly seniors. And I know that there's something coming up the end of this month too, where we all have to locally, even locally, within 516, you have to dial your area code. So, we have to go back into our cell phones, I guess the numbers that you have programmed, and put the 516, the area codes before the number, even especially, and really only the 516, because if you have a 516 area code on your phone, you have to dial area codes outside of that. So all your numbers in your cell phone that just have the 7 numbers, you now have to put 516 before that. That's before the end of the month. So it's always, in that same realm, it's a good idea to always program the town's 311 and to dial the actual number. Because, especially if you're in an active ride and you need some assistance, maybe you're calling for a return ride, and if you can't reach a taxi company for some reason, 311 can help. So you should always get used to kind of dialing number, unless of course you're at home. And then 311 is, just the easiest and best way.
I have something I'd like to bring up that I had personal experience with as well, and that is to make sure the people who run the STOP program get very good credit. I went to the September 12th one. It was a huge turnout. The cars were way back, and yet the process and the people who were working that thing were super efficient and should deserve a lot of credit. There was a huge turnout when I was there. I can't speak for the whole day.
So
but they
that's
should
great,
get
Otto.
credit. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, my husband actually was there that day, and he confirms what you said. He said it was really impressive. No one knew that he was my husband. He was just,
Hanging out
there. They actually had the largest number of participants ever. They had over 1,500 cars.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
How many? 600?
Over 1,500 cars.
1,500.
Over 1,500 cars. And
Wow.
it really is extraordinary. It's, look, some of it is the people who work at the Solid Waste Management Authority, SWAMA, who are phenomenal. And that's led by our executive director, Michael Kelly, who does a great job. And some of the things are actually, we get from outside. Like, we don't have a shredding machine, so we contract with someone who does shredding. But there's the expectation from all the people that we deal with, as well as the people who actually work for the town, that everybody is treated with respect, that things are done so that it moves quickly, efficiently. The next stop event, actually, because you're bringing it up, is November 13th, and will be at North Hempstead Beach Park. So again, if you have things that you need to drop off, that would be the time. We also have an e-waste drop off on October 23rd. So actually a month from yesterday. It's actually my husband Jay's birthday and Tony Catalano's birthday.
That's my husband Jay's birthday.
Oh, see that? So I think Tony is going to be either 101 or 102. He's one of our very great veterans, who's part of our Veterans Advisory Committee. So October 23rd is a big day in the town of North Hempstead, and also because it is an e-waste drop-off opportunity. Also at
Shredding is big to me. Shredding. We talked about this on the radio before. I have a shredder, but it doesn't shred a lot of stuff. So now I just have a little box and I throw the stuff in there that should be shredded and bring that to the shredding thing. Works great.
It works great. And what's amazing is that there's like this little window. So as your stuff is being shredded, you actually can watch that it's being shredded, because sometimes people are skeptical and they're concerned that maybe their private documents are somehow not being shredded. It's all transparent. You put it in and you watch it being shredded as that's happening. So I'm glad you're making good use of it, Otto, and hopefully a lot of other. Well, we know that at that September one, over 1,500 cars. So that means over 1,500 cars did visit. And although there were lines, they went smoothly. And thank you so much for bringing that up.
Well, I
mean, never know what Otto's going to bring up. I can prepare for as much as I want.
Well, they make it as painless as possible, frankly. You pop your trunk open, and for the most part, they take whatever you have in there and take care of it, whether it be e-waste or hazardous stuff that day. Paper is another one. You go to the shredder. But the whole thing has a smooth flow to it, and it really was very impressive. That's all I can say.
Was that over one day that 1,500 cars came?
Yeah.
It wasn't even a day. It was like 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever.
That's
But, they've got it down to a science, and it moves, and it's again a lot of plan. Just as for Project Independence Radio Show, the planning that goes into it. Whatever you do requires a lot of planning. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, and the result is that our residents are served, well. So that's a good thing. But I had mentioned Tony, who's one of our veterans. I do want to mention that we are going to be having a traveling half-size replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It's called the Moving Wall. That's going to be here in North Hempstead on Friday, October 15th to Sunday, October 17th.
Supervisor,
yes.
We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, let's go over all those dates because it's going to be a great
Amazing.
program.
Yes.
So we'll be right back after a quick break. We'll continue speaking with Supervisor Judi Bosworth, celebrating Project Independence in You 10-year anniversary on 88.1 WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, with co-host Otto Lohse, our radio show producer extraordinaire, Kristina Liu. And we have been talking with Supervisor Judi Bosworth, and we're all celebrating together 10 years of Project Independence in You, and also getting a lot of great information. Just a little tidbit, Supervisor, we talked about how fast it goes when you do an hour on this radio show, and this is the last segment, so it really did go quite fast.
I just looked at the clock. I was like, is this for real?
It just goes so fast. So much great information. I know I had to cut you off for a break before, and you were, I think, going over the locations and the spots for the moving wall for the Veterans Memorial.
Yeah, I seem to always bring up something new just as we're going to break. And
that's right. It's like the cliffhanger. You leave people hanging. Exactly. There you go.
So it's only one location. It's North Hempstead Beach Park, but it will be there from Friday, October 15th through Sunday, October 17th. And there will be a there'll be actually a ceremony each day, because we have to acknowledge and welcome it to North Hempstead each day with the color guard. But there will be a more substantial ceremony on Friday, October 15th at 9:00. The wall itself is engraved with the names of the 58,228 Americans who died during the war. And it's a recognition for all those who paid that ultimate sacrifice during the Vietnam War, and also to acknowledge so many of our brave men and women who fought in that war and then came back to our country and were not given the respect and the honor that they should have gotten. It was I guess, we go through many strange times in our history, and that certainly was one. So this is a way of honoring and showing the great respect to those who did pay the ultimate sacrifice, as well as to those who fought in that. Every war is terrible, but certainly fought in the Vietnam War. We're looking for volunteers to be there to help, people find their way, around the wall. There will be social workers there as well, just in case, people are overcome with the emotion of being there. It's something I'm so proud that we are bringing this to North Hempstead, and that everyone will have the opportunity. The park will be open 24 hours to see the wall, to visit it. People may want to do it in having a very private moment, and so it will be open the entire time. And we hope that that many people, will come to see it. And it's, it's one of these things where we always need to remember, we can't forget, we need to make sure our veterans understand that we are grateful to them, that we appreciate the great sacrifices that they've made. And so that's always something that moves us every day. And it can't just be on Veterans Day or Memorial Day. It's something that just needs to be in our hearts, all the time.
I'm sorry, but one of the
Sure.
things that hits me is you think about like the fact that social workers are there, I think is a very good thing, because 58,000 sounds like a number, but that number, that they were people who had families, who had children, who had parents, who had whatever, and the number of people impacted by that is much larger than 58,000. And I always, when I hear numbers, you think about it, okay, it's a number, but if you look past the number part, each number has a lot connected to it. And, that was a terrible war, that Vietnam War, to be blunt about it. And the whole thing, when they came back, I know people who were involved, and it wasn't that a good thing. It was terrible. So it's great that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. So, it's not just those that lost their lives. So many people were affected. They were affected by Agent Orange. Families were affected. They came back with all kinds of things that they had to deal with, and many are still dealing with. So it's a recognition of that. And I know this is a celebratory day, but I did also want to mention that one of the things that we just did, speaking about never forgetting and always remembering, is the fact that we dedicated the 19-foot steel beam from the World Trade Center. That's something that the town acquired some years ago. We had a small memorial in Town Hall that had the names of the people from North Hempstead who died that tragic day. But we also had this 19-foot steel beam, and we had a 9/11 committee. This was, you'd think it would be a simple thing to do. It wasn't. We had to decide upon a location, how we were going to do it, what we were going to do. And so I'm so grateful to all the people who participated in this. And so as we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the radio show. This past 9/11 was the 20th anniversary of that fateful day. And we had some weeks before, the beam was actually transported. There was a dignified transport. So we had so many of our fire companies being an honor guard for the steel beam, escorting it to Manhasset Valley Park, which is where it is now located. And what struck me that day when we transported the beam was that a number of the young men and women who were volunteer fire fighters, they weren't alive at that time. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes even more important that we talk about this, that we remember it. Now we have this dedicated monument, and it's really done simply and beautifully. The steel beam is actually pointing towards the World Trade Center, and it's in view of the train. There's an elevated bridge where the Long Island Railroad goes, that so many of those who died that morning were on that train going to work innocently and were murdered. So it is something that we have to know, that it is our responsibility to always remember, to never forget, and to make sure that generations to come understand the significance of that.
Yeah, very, very well said. And, because the firefighters, they were heroes. A lot of them were veterans too. And, we talked about this a little bit on the last show, how a lot of the firefighters are also volunteers. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty amazing,
Most of them in Nassau County.
On Long Island, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, it's not just those that died that day. There are so many who, as people were running out of the building, they were running into the building to save people. These are the people who were working in the rubble that remained. I mean, look, we have a 19-foot steel beam that miraculously survived. but they're left with 9/11 related injuries and illnesses. Many have died from them. So, one of the plans, this is the initial memorial, but it's not over. It's a work in progress. There will be a wall with the names of those who perished because of 9/11 illnesses and injuries. Maybe not on that day, but in ensuing days. We're so grateful to people who thought about themselves, who thought about us before thinking about themselves, who thought about what they could do to save others with little or no regard for their own safety. And they are heroes.
They're heroes. There was so much humanity that day and after. And, I do want to point something out, Judi, because one of the first things you did when you came into office is you created a Veterans Advisory Committee. So, we can't assume that we know what's best for veterans. And, at the time, too, we still had, World War II, Korean War veterans, Vietnam veterans. So it wasn't, age specific, though I think for the most part, we do have older veterans that are on the committee. So, I mean, it's, just like Project Independence, we have advisory, as well as because you come to all of them. We have advisory meetings for all different areas of the town. And we learned a lot from the advisory. I mean, we can make assumptions what older folks need, and as they get older and whatever it is, whether it's health related, financial, and some of those assumptions will be close, but you really don't know. I mean, I think this radio show even was suggested by Jerry Pretz.
It was by Jerry Perritzman at
a Great Neck Advisory. He said, would be great, because people, that generation were still into the radio.
Actually, I'm sorry, but actually there was a radio newsletter advisory committee back then, which is where Jerry brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to have it everyday show, which would have been great, so, Kristina. You could have run the show every day.
I'm exhausted thinking about it.
Right. But it just shows you that it's so important to get as many people involved as possible. I remember when I suggested the Veterans Advisory Committee, and the person who I was working with started saying, well, we'll get a representative from the state, we'll get a representative from federal. And I went, no. It's got to be our veterans, hearing what they view is important, what they feel we can be doing. And it wasn't to develop another layer of government, because we have, veteran, offices on the county level and the state level. That wasn't it. It was to try to figure out what our veterans felt we could do in North Hempstead. And the first thing we did was a donation drive for Northport VA Hospital. And it started with, I remember we thought we had done such a great job that first year. We had 80 boxes of donated goods that we brought out to Northport VA Hospital. By the time now, because of COVID, they're not, that's not happening. We're doing gift cards, and we have started our new donation drive already. Gift cards, please. The last time we brought out over 250, and I don't mean like little boxes, I mean boxes. Our residents are so generous, are so kind. And that's, that's one of the things that makes our town so special. People like Otto, who donate their time to host, to co-host, a program like this, the people who serve on advisory committees, the people who have constructive criticism, even the people who have no problem letting us know what we're doing wrong. And that's just as important, because you need to know what people are thinking. And sometimes that could be correct. And if it is, then we need to fix it. Sometimes it just may be that there's a miscommunication. Mm-hmm. But the thing that makes us strong is the fact that there are open lines of communication, and that's what we do. We talk to each other and we learn from each other.
What I would love to see is the Veterans Advisory Committee, and I don't know because I'm not on it, but I know Al Piscatelli pretty well.
Oh yeah.
The need to get young veterans involved. They're reluctant, and what they went through in the last number of years was far from pleasurable. And it would be really, really great if anybody knows anybody who's a young veteran, if they could get them involved. I think their input would also be very important.
No question. And that's a challenge, Otto. It's a challenge for the different posts. It's a challenge for our committee. But it's certainly a goal that needs to be continued to go for.
Well, Supervisor Bosworth, it's time. It just flew by. Thank you so much great information. And thanks for celebrating Project Independence in You. 10 years on the radio. It's so unbelievable. And I'm sure we'll have you back on the show. We have to take a quick break now. We will be back with.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So great to share this with you. Thank you. Love you all.
Thanks, Supervisor.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.